Prince of Eternia,
defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull.
Let her go.
By the power of Grayskull!
At last I won! Let this be our final battle!
You heard it up top. At the nexus of all realities, at the birthplace of magic, there is Normies of the Universe. JK, it's Normies Like Us, where we're talking Masters of the Universe with your hosts, Colin.
Oh, I'll be, I guess, Mike Man, just like Joe said. That's all you need to do.
Trap Joe.
Mmm.
You took mine, Colin, but I'm going with it anyways. Evil Jacob.
We.
That's the second time.
Hold on.
At the end of the last episode.
Hit pause. Lynn, my name has a Lynn in it. Where was the Jacob? Why did we both jump to her?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's my favorite name.
Your personality is the best, so.
I think she has my favorite name of any of the characters. Because it's just Evil Lynn, and I just think that's so funny. So
you want to be Cobb Orko, Jake Trap, Jacob Jaw?
I guess I could be Mermike then in that case.
Yeah, there you go.
Mermike, that's great.
Oh,
I was trying to make Cringer work somehow with my name, but it didn't.
Battle Cobb, come on.
That's true.
We had it. But, Masters of the Universe, Motu, as we call it in the fandom. That's what we're talking today.
That's right. We had it, Mike. But the question today that we're going to talk about as we break down the new Netflix show, talking about the history of Masters of the Universe, the toy lines, all that, we got to ask, did you have it? Mike, did you have Masters of the Universe He-Man toys growing up?
Yeah, so as much as I alluded to knowing that it was called Motu the whole time, I've learned that recently, and I love it, Masters of the Universe. I was not really into He-Man as a kid. I was aware of it through cultural osmosis. There was someone down the street, one of the neighbor kids had Castle Grayskull and Ram Man and He-Man, which was really cool. So I knew people who had the G.I. Joe Cobra Command Center and Castle Grayskull. So I got to experience those things, never owned them. But we would kind of pick on him. We'd call it P-Man, which wasn't very nice.
Nice.
But
wow,
that
being said, Mike.
Kids are mean. But that being said, in hindsight, shouldn't have done that, and kind of got in on the new Netflix show, and we'll get to what we think about it. But I enjoyed it, and I wanted to know more about the He-Man universe, and I went back and explored more of the series, the Dolph Lundgren movie, and a little bit of research on the toys. But I think I've found a new appreciation for the Masters of the Universe, but didn't grow up necessarily loving it.
Yeah, for me, I did not grow up with it at all. I mean, the cartoon, that was in the 80s, right? So that's a little before our time. I never watched the cartoon as a kid, and I didn't have any of the toys or anything, but I was aware of it, like you, Mike. So I kind of also have found a new appreciation through the Netflix show.
What was your toy, Jacob, growing up? What was your big...
I don't know. I had Legos, and I didn't really have
a Lego
action
pod
Xander. Yeah, we talked about Xander
the Lego
Scorpion.
He had any of these other characters, like Optimus Prime.
That's
or
right.
Duke
No.
from G.I. Joe.
The
Mike,
Scorpion
I
and
wasn't an
Xander.
action figure kid at all.
Okay.
I just had Legos, and I like the customization ability of the Legos. That's a word.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it. Joe?
Well, I was an action figure boy and action figure man, so I'm all familiar with Motu Madness, right? It is a little before our time, but I have an older brother, so yeah, I had a Triclops, a Buzz-Off, a He-Man that had kind of like a rotating center where like the emblem would come out, and a Skeletor. Like, we didn't have it all. We didn't have Castle Grayskull or anything like that, but I definitely remember a handful of these figures being in regular rotation.
Got it. Colin, how about you then?
That's amazing. And normies, if you're younger normies, you're not going to understand. When Joe says, like, didn't have Castle Grayskull, did you have a vehicle or anything?
Yeah, we had like a Wing Rider, I think, and a Battle Cat,
Huge, though. For our generation, for your parents to be like, all right, I already paid the $5.99 for a fucking Power Ranger toy. I'm not going to buy you Zordon's Hangout 2. I don't know what that is. You did not get the location. You did not get the vehicle. Masters of the Universe, older brother as well, Joe. a toy boy as well. We've talked in the past. Mine growing up was Transformers. We did the whole fucking episode. It's what his life ended up being. But, you know, for us, that was the cartoon that lined up with us. Did not care about Masters of the Universe. Trying to think now where it's like, is it because of the weird muscly bodies? You know, they don't really look like they could do much. Even now, I have a huge appreciation for kind of how interesting and unique and weird the whole toyline series is. But no, I didn't have any. We loved the Canon movie. Road trips. Like, I would choose like 3 movies. I would choose Nicolas Cage's The Rock. I would choose The Great Mouse Detective.
Nice.
All on VHS bootlegs, like Jacob's always saying, like ripped from Blockbuster, by the way.
Third generation.
And, I would choose Dolph Lundgren's Masters of the Universe. We would watch it all the time, but I had no special attachment to the show.
Wow. So
yeah, I mean, it wasn't like my go-to when I was a kid. Like, I was way more into the G.I. Joe mythos, but you know, now that it's come back into the zeitgeist so much, I definitely, like Mike, have found a new appreciation for Motu that I didn't necessarily have before. So I'm more on board than I've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, what was your toy? I got to know as well.
Okay, so in school we had to write a book. You know, you had to write your own books and illustrate them, right? You know, about your favorite toy, right? And you had to explain, pick your toy and then use an adjective. So I wrote a book in school called My Hard Monster Predator. Title could use some reworks. But it was about, I had a toy of the Predator movie. Like, I had
from the Kenner line.
Yeah, so I had like weird like Dragonheart toys and shit. You know, like Jurassic Park toys. I'm a dinosaur kid. I had a lot of Jurassic Park toys. That was kind of my stuff. It was.
Did anyone
a little bit older
Robin
than it
Hood,
should have
Prince
been?
of Thieves, just to go off that, like things where you're like, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Kevin Costner,
you know, like that playset is literally the Ewok playset from the last Star Wars movie too. All that stuff is just entirely repurposed. The Friar Tuck in that line is literally a Gamorrean guard from
hilarious.
Oh my god,
that's amazing.
Jacob, what were you gonna say? What were you gonna ask?
Yeah,
I was gonna say I did have some random action figures. It is weird because I wasn't into this at all as a kid, but I had some wrestling, some WWE like figurines, like Undertaker, and I don't know. I feel like I had like Randy Orton or something, but I didn't even know that much about wrestling because I didn't watch it as a kid. So it's just like I just had these weird. I don't know where I got them from. They were like hand-me-downs.
These guys look cool.
Yeah, right. So I had like Undertaker, and he would hang out. So it was cool.
Well, maybe another episode we'll get to. Also, Street Sharks was big for me. We've done Turtles.
Sure.
We'll get to the other 80s cartoon, 90s cartoons.
The way it always was for my family was it was like
Mars.
Oh yeah, Cowboys and Moo Mesa.
Joe, literally what I'm about to say. Like, for some reason, maybe because it was just me and my brother, it was like, you get 2. I'd have like 2 Street Sharks, 2 Ninja Turtles, Joe, that were the ones that would transform into the turtles.
The turtle? Okay, yeah.
What the fuck? And then 2 biker mice from Mars, and I'd be like, these are all my thing. And it was just cartoon fucking propaganda from toy companies, we will now jump in and talk about as we do some Masters of the Universe.
And the Masters of the Universe. I am Adam, Prince of Eternia and defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, "By the power of Grayskull!" Cringer became the mighty Battle Cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe.
We're back on Normies Like Us talking He-Man and the Master of the Universe. And of course, in the last segment, we were talking, being a little bit of toy boys. We were talking the toys we had in our youth, the cartoons that inspired those toys. Let's talk about the granddaddy of all cartoons inspiring toys. We're talking the original He-Man series. We're going to talk the original toy. So look, Mattel, it's a company that exists. Big company. They own Barbie. They realize they have a female brand. Nothing to sell to boys. What are we going to do here? They hold a focus group, and they find out most of the boys say, I don't want to listen to my teacher. I'm tired of my babysitter telling me what to do. My mom's always yelling at me, telling me my chores and stuff. I want to have the power! And they take that to motherfucking heart. And Normies, I will recommend, just a side note real quick, The Toys That Made Us, a fantastic little episode on Netflix, kind of gives you this history. By the Power of Grayskull, a documentary that's on Netflix as well. There's a lot of research material out there if you're interested in figuring out how the Big Jim toy line Joe gets transformed into a brawny space barbarian named He-Man.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a really fun episode of television, and also just like a really quick layout of why this has stuck with people so much, because Mattel was essentially looking for a Star Wars killer, and they created one in-house with He-Man.
Because they had passed, right? They passed on Star Wars,
Mike,
and then regretted it, right?
Yeah.
But let's talk about that. What the thing they were passing on was, do you want to sell a box with a coupon inside that says kids will get toys one day? They made the right decision there to pass, Mike.
Kenner would disagree, but, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's like they were frustrated with, like, by the time we manufacture the toys, the theatrical cycle's done, and when we're ready to ship, you know, the hype has died down. Thus, we will just ship a piece of cardboard, and they weren't really about that, so. But missing that opportunity, Kenner, I guess, made bank right on those pieces of cardboard.
Well, you know, to point to my little Conan the Barbarian sign behind me, they buy the rights to that. They go, okay, here's a toy. Here's a great idea. We'll make our own epic line. Oh, of an R-rated movie that kids can't go and see? That's not going to work
It's like making a Predator toy.
Push it back down. Push it back down. Yes, exactly. We'll throw it to research and development. Like we said before, Big Jim was a Canadian trucking toy series that they owned. You go, what the fuck is that? And a development executive goes, put more clay on him. Really make him the biggest guy you've ever seen. Make him look like Charles Atlas in one of those magazines. I want him to just look like a He-Man. Dun, 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 dun. And
there it is.
Know, there it is. It's too much to say. Again, we'll say go and look at one of these movies if you want to, one of these series that sort of breaks it down more. But basically, 12 people invent the different elements that make up He-Man, quote unquote. To say that there's one creator, there really isn't. It's an amazing corporate amalgamation that Mattel made He-Man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It seems like, and Joe, maybe you can expand on this. It's like we want to make toys to sell them to boys. And then, oh, well, what's the backdrop or the jumping off point for kind of the story of what the kids would play with, make maybe a comic book, and it kind of snowballs a little bit. There's a lot of moving parts.
This is one of the things that I think is like so fascinating about the toy industry that really doesn't exist anywhere else, is it is kind of like created by the company. The company gets the credit. It's not like when you write a comic book, like, you know, Bob Kane and Bill Finger get credit for creating Batman. Mattel gets credit for creating He-Man. So they're doing their big presentation, and they need something to explain what this is to kids. And on the spot, they say, oh, we're going to have a comic book. There's going to be a comic book in each issue. So they introduce these comic books, and there's no Prince Adam. There's no like mythos like that. It really is kind of a wandering warrior for, you know, this universe of Eternia. And then they're pitching to Toys R Us, and Toys R Us is like, well, wait a minute. These toys are for like 5-year-old kids who can't read. What good is a comic book? And they say, oh, we're going to have 2 one-hour specials that are cartoons that'll explain everything so that the kids know what they are from these 2 one-hour cartoon specials. But what they found out is that it was cheaper to make a full series, a full season of a television show. And that is where He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was born. And even though the toys were already off to a pretty good start in their first year, by the time the show comes out the year afterwards, forget about it. We are living in the age of Motu, where they will dominate.
Wow. Cheaper to make a whole series. And like, this is that first show. And again, the toys, you know, initially when I, you know, was familiar, like I know who He-Man is, it feels like dorky to me, and that with all due respect, the idea of Beast Man and He-Man and
Yeah.
I won't ever disrespect Skeletor though. That man is a treasure. But it feels kind of dorky and a little on the nose, right? But the show kind of maybe gives it a lot more momentum. Like Joe said, they were off to a strong start, but Saturday morning cartoons kind of is gangbusters here. It is what it seemed like. Have you guys seen this? We mentioned earlier on, like, I didn't really grow up with it. I did check out a couple episodes, like the pilot and a couple episodes, just to get a feel for it.
Right.
Definitely more
I've
familiar
seen a
with
couple...
the Hey Ya meme. Right.
Yeah, I feel like the cartoon is very similar to G.I. Joe, where it's like very episodic, simple lessons of like, good versus evil. And yeah, they just basically existed to sell toys, right? So they would have like the new vehicle show up or like some new villain that you can buy, But I appreciate kind of the world building of it all, of like, it's kind of fantasy mixed with sci-fi. There's like technology, there's magic.
Wild.
It's Conan meets Star Wars, right?
Yeah, and this is something
Mad
like
Max.
as a kid that was just kind of lost on me. Like, I remember seeing a couple episodes. I'm pretty sure we had a couple VHS tapes, and like the theme song was on a tape somewhere. Like, I was pretty familiar with it, and you just kind of like take for granted that like, it's a fantasy world, but also like they have like flying machines, and half the characters shoot lasers at each other.
Yeah.
Coming back to it now, I'm like, oh, holy shit! This is literally like the kitchen sink of like content, where it's like, if you want a space show, it could be a space show, it could be a fantasy show. Like, I really fell back into it hard. Like on an adult watch, I saw like how smart this stupid show really was.
Right.
Yeah. And coming out of the toy line to a little bit of comic book pack in, and then, Prince Adam's, like, I think in the DC run, and then he's fully kind of established in the show. This is all from watching those documentaries. I'm not innately born with this knowledge. But maybe
I was amazed.
Every iteration of He-Man, because I checked out like each, a couple episodes of each of the series, saw the movie, like I said, they all do have these similar elements that are kind of laid, I guess, the toy line, but, with this original show of Prince Adam, He-Man, Teela, Evil Lynn, Skeletor, Beastman, all the classic villains, right? And that kind of persists in kind of every version of He-Man going forward, and I think that's pretty strong. Colin, what do you think of that world building and kind of this cast of characters, as goofy as they are?
I so agree, Mike. It opens us up to the pedantic argument that I think some assholes could do with like Ninja Turtles, where it's like, I'm a fan of the Eastman Laird comics. Well, I liked, the cartoon growing up. Well, I liked the, whatever the
2012
the movie,
CG one, or all the different.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Mike.
I only
That's
like
the
the
best
new
one.
Lord and Eastman stuff.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway,
Yeah,
a division could be born.
But from that, amazing. I love that it is so huge that it can just be endless and endless. And the fact that, if you watch those little documentaries where the executives go, there was a point where we were just daring each other. We were just coming up with names like Mecha-neck and just like, this guy's a wizard, that guy's a fucking
Tongue Thrasher.
Yeah, Stinkor. It's like, we made you fucking kids buy a smelly skunk. Like, this is a joke to us.
Right. And
I almost respect it more for that. It really has like a wild nature of like, it's almost like Repo Man, like a punk rock movie. He-Man is a punk rock toy.
Yeah.
Fuck you, he's Luke Skywalker, and he fights a skeleton man.
That's
and there's an
Darth Vader.
enchantress who's a bird.
Oh, what's
Rides
that
a
guy's
giant
name? He's a beast. He's
His name's
Beastman.
Roboto Joe, and he's a robot. And you're like, he is?
I saw a clip of the Toys That Made Us episode where they're talking about Battle Cat, and they're like, yeah, well, basically we had this other like Jungle Jim character who was like a animal trainer, and we had this tiger, but the tiger was like, the scale was, he was too big for He-Man. He was more like a horse. So we were like, let's make it fucking ride him, Why not?
Paint it green.
Going, it doesn't work, you assholes. Look what I did. I painted it green and gave it stripes just to mock you. And the executive comes over, puts him on it like a horse, and goes, it's perfect. And the designer goes, what have I done? Like, it is, like, the way they treat it is like, it's just like, it's almost like a sin. I love it.
It's weirdly the most earnest, I think, of these properties designed to sell toys. Because it's like, we'll just, repaint Merman, call him Stinkor. But yeah, Joe, go ahead.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to me at all.
Yeah.
All of that craziness, like, I love characters like Buzz Off, who's like, he's the B character. We called him Buzz Off. He flies in the background. Fisto, things like that. But like, if you look at like the first wave of figures, you have He-Man, Teela, Skeletor, Merman, Man-at-Arms, and Beastman. Like all characters that are like, yep, those guys are core. They are always around. So like they did. It's crazy that like wave 1 they knocked it out of the park like right away. They're like, those ones are gonna stick around.
Yeah, and Castle Grayskull is the backdrop, kind of the seat of power, and whoever is there is more or less control of the region or the realm, and Skeletor wants
making it up as they go.
Yeah, and I do like the technology mix.
Making up gold as they go, Joe, because you get the artist who goes, and of course I called it Castle Grayskull because gray is a mixture of light and darkness. You have to have He-Man's sword and Skeletor's sword. It's the only balance that opens the key to control the power of Grayskull is to know the darkness and light inside yourself. You're like, what?
What?
This show with this guy who's naked and has a bowl cut is about what?
Who's definitely not Conan the Barbarian.
It's like the yes and version of like creating something. I think like that's why like I love the toy industry so much. It's like this is just how they do lines like that, like how companies come up with original lines. And now we're seeing companies like Mezco and Super 7 going to the well and doing that for adults with their own original lines. Like, Super 7 just came out with like The Worst, which are just characters in a universe that they created. And like Mezco's got the Rumble Society. All those guys were super inspired by and even interviewed in some of the He-Man stuff we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I love, it's very punk rock, the patchwork nature of the creative process with, repainting a tiger, Stinkor, technology and fantasy. Kids like space and swords, right? Put it together.
Throw it all in there.
It is the kitchen sink, and it weirdly somehow works, and it's more endearing to me looking back at it, like as I said. And, so this first animated series, haven't finished all of it. It has the little goofy, life lessons Adam learned that you need to stand up for yourself and your friends, and it's okay to talk to an adult.
It's G.I. Joe. They end with the more you know moment. Like that's just how you made cartoons.
We had some fun this week,
at that time.
But when Cringer got his head stuck in the punch bowl, the thing is, you're not supposed to do that. So we'll see you later.
Yeah,
what
totally.
The fuck did I just learn?
So I could see how, if you grew up with this, you're the right age. I can see why Motu has the legacy that it does, basing it off of this cartoon and the era it came from. And definitely worth checking out, if not just for Skeletor's incredible moments. You see a lot of the memes with Skeletor, but he's so... there's a lot of one-liners and puns. Yeah.
Yes, but you see like Skeletor like laughing and it'll be like "Yas Queen" all over the place. Who is cheering these?
He's so
you royal boob.
Yeah, there's a lot of good like quips and back and forth one-liners.
Don't do what I say, just do what I say.
Yeah. So that's the first Motu series. It goes from 83 to 87, and then they start seeing a dip in toy sales, and that's where we get chronologically, I guess, Dolph. Right? Is that?
Mm-hmm. So it dominates for 5 years and then starts to dip, and they're like, better make a movie. Let's get movie stars.
And they also made She-Ra in that time period too, right?
Yeah, She-Ra came,
which is basically just a girl version of He-Man.
Yeah, we should mention that, I guess. It was
and because there's an entire part in that The Toys That Made Us where they're like, and we had to give it over to the girls. The girls had to come in and ruin He-Man, which is a through line we're gonna talk about once we get to the Netflix.
Yeah, which is weird that plot point is being that seed is being planted here. Which there was also women were directing the cartoon series. Like for better, like it or not, according to the Boys Club, right? It's like. There was women directing this show back in the 80s, which I think is pretty cool. And then it started rivaling the sales of Barbie. And they're like, maybe just make a girl He-Man called She-Ra?
Just do her. She-Ra.
What if Barbie could
Princess
swim
of Power?
Was literally the premise that they asked themselves.
Does she say I have the power too, or is it a different little kind of thing?
By the honor of Grayskull, I have the power.
So
Yeah.
it's still I have the power. I like
Instead.
that. Gender neutral.
That's it.
Empowerment.
It has a more pastel kind of color scheme to it, right? And it's more.
Yeah. I mean, basically, Prince Adam rides in and is like, "Hey, don't tell anyone you're She-Ra. That's part of the gimmick, right? Like,
You're
we
Matt
gotta keep
Twiggs
this a
here.
secret." And by the way, you're gonna go to a different planet, and you're gonna do your thing on a different planet because the execs don't want us sharing screen time.
Yeah, we're not allowed to be in the same universe.
I love that. That's early. You know, there wasn't a Transformers spin-off back then. It's not like Beast Wars aired in the 80s alongside Transformers. I think that's pretty cool.
Nope, that was bringing it back. Yeah. I mean, there was really it laid the groundwork for so much, but then the movie came along and kind of undid a lot of the good faith that Motu had earned.
All right, so let's talk about it. Super producers Golan and Globus of the Canon Film Group purchased the rights to Masters of the Universe. This is a big slate that they're creating. They're so excited for it. They make that, okay, they purchased the rights for that, and Spider-Man concurrently. And they're going to have James Cameron do Spider-Man with Leonardo DiCaprio. One of those things where if I had a time machine, it's like, let's go ahead and make that
different alternate universe.
Yeah.
But first they blow it because they make Masters of the Universe. It is the film that bankrupts the Canon Film Group. It completely obliterates them.
Really?
Spending so much money on Gary Goddard, kind of an untested director, a pedophile. I'm not laughing about that. I'm just laughing that it's terrible. He molested Anthony Edwards.
He's a bad guy.
Just an all-around bad person.
Friend of.
But he comes in.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. But he comes in with an interesting take, which is, what if we do He-Man and it's nothing like He-Man?
Yeah, what if this had nothing to do with any of the things that people knew and loved about this series?
Well, Joe, it's going to take place on Eternia, right?
Nope.
Oh.
No, it's not.
Oh,
Okay,
God.
well, so He-Man's going to use his sword, though, right?
I don't think we really need the sword or nothing like that.
I'm thinking more laser heavy.
Well, surely it won't star a teenage girl. It will star He-Man, correct?
He-Man will be in it.
Oh, man, now we're coming back into the other controversy. It rears its head again early on. Oh, no.
Girls are always trying to take Masters of the Universe away from us.
damn
And
it.
of course, that girl in this one is a young Courtney Cox, who pre-Friends stars in the Masters of the Universe. Did we all watch this film?
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, I really got to have a rant. I've been keeping this in the back of my cap. I was falling in love with the Motu universe, wanted to go back and watch everything. A lot of the cartoons are available on various streaming sites or YouTube if you look. But the Masters of the Universe movie, it wasn't on any platform, not on Netflix, Amazon, couldn't rent it on YouTube. I'm like trying to give you my $3.99 to rent in HD, and I couldn't do it. And at one point,
I'll need that money, Mike.
Jacob finds a YouTube of...
In parts, right?
In
like
parts.
10 parts.
10-minute parts. And I'm starting to enjoy the movie. You know, there's a part where Tom Paris, who's also in this movie from Star Trek Voyager, is microwaving some ribs. And then the microwave jams the radar of Skeletor's minions. And I'm like, this is a great scene. It's so stupid. And then part 6 is blocked globally. I get on my VPN. Cannot find a single country that it's not blocked in. I have to pirate the middle 10 minutes of the movie. What is going on here? It was so hard to watch it. But I persevered.
Masters of the Universe.
I would not give up. I had the power, and I watched the whole thing, and I don't hate it. I think it's quite fun.
It is fun. I watched it a few years back with the boys, Colin and Joe, right? It's one of Colin's, favorite childhood films,
Top
right?
10.
So you were like, I've never seen it, so he's like, you got to check this out, and we watched it, and it was great.
Joe, what do you think about the Master of the Universe?
Okay, so my version of this movie is the Super Mario Brothers movie with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo. I did not grow up with the Masters of the Universe movie. I saw it once when I was a kid, around the same time I saw Labyrinth. There's a lot of similar effects. Didn't really stick with me. Did not realize that it was supposed to be a He-Man movie until my brother was like, it's He-Man. And I was like, no, it's not. This is something else.
Right.
And then it went dormant for a long time, and then Colin and I started watching it every now and again for a good old laugh. Last time I saw it, it was on silent a bar in like 2018, and I watched it in the background.
There you go.
It's fun enough.
Oh,
It gave us post-cred scenes in modern cinema.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, again, I think it's very Star Wars, inspired, and it's very Conan
Black
inspired.
Troopers.
It's like, Dolph
Yeah.
Lundgren is basically Conan, and then there's a lot of Star Wars elements. Yeah, the troopers of Skeletor's like troops are basically stormtroopers, right?
Yeah, but the toys was literally, we want to make Star Wars, but we also have been working on Conan figures that we can't sell. Let's put those together, right?
So that element of it, I think it is, even if it's not super, what's the word?
Successfully
Similar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
It's the Howard the Duck of its year. Like
some would say
it came out at a
Duck.
very similar time.
Marvel of the 80s. Joe, I love that.
Yeah.
Now, interesting you say comic books.
Yes.
Let me point this out to you, Joe. Pedophile director Gary Goddard said Star Wars was not the biggest inspiration for this. It was Jack Kirby Fourth World comics. He was like, I want to essentially make the new gods. Does that come
I
through?
believe it.
like Skeletor
it has
was
very Kirby vibes. Like it really does.
He's dark side, right, Jacob?
he's dark side. And,
I am Adam, Prince of Eternia, defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous. By the power of Grayskull!
I have the
Oh, okay. See, the way I interpreted this movie that I really enjoyed is it's, all right, so what if there's an episode of the cartoon series where He-Man does end up on Earth doing a little gimmick? And for He-Man, it's just a run-of-the-mill weekly episode, but we're following the Earth characters who, for them, meeting He-Man and this whole adventure is the biggest thing that's ever happened to them.
Movie
right.
worthy, Mike.
Right.
It
So
makes no
we're
sense to
following
me.
Do you like how I like how the movie starts, where it just throws you into this Eternia battle where, like, Skeletor's taken over, He-Man and his gang are kind of like on the run, and then they get transported to Earth through this magical key thing. So we don't even meet the Earth character. Like, the first 20 minutes is all Eternia stuff. It just drops you in.
Well, Jacob, I want to say that crew of generals that we meet, because it is interesting, almost like Beastmaster Mike, where he's like, or the second one, where he's like a revolutionary figure inside this, barbarian wasteland. You meet Tila, a woman in a metal thong, fascinating. You meet her father, Duncan, his man-at-arms, okay, kind of sounds like the toys or the comics. You're like, okay, we're getting there. Then... do you meet Orko, the playful magician, Jacob?
No. Instead, you have Quildor, the
right.
the key maker,
the key master. You meet the greatest character in cinema history, character actor Billy Barty from Willow, Time Bandits, as Quildor, the key master.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Why? Like, why? Why not Orca? I don't
Joe,
get it.
You are canon. Wouldn't you say to Mattel, give me I have to use everybody. Send us over what the toys look like, right?
Right.
Especially, like, Orca was, like, the Slimer. Like, why? You know what I mean? Like,
he really was.
He's
like the little
mascot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's the jobby. He's the heart.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
Just a little guy.
Little fool.
Yes. He comes in. He does a little joke. No, we get something very different. We get a guy who at one point dresses like a pimp and drives a purple Cadillac or a pink Cadillac, and I don't know. I just don't know. It's truly fascinating.
I mean, on the Orko note, real quick, I just in my head just kept being like, "That's Orko." I don't know. You keep calling him something else. But
I don't know why you call him something else.
Yeah.
Mike, in the same way that Joe was like, I didn't know that was a He-Man movie, I want to speak on that and say, I had no idea every time I would watch that this was a He-Man movie. And in my mind, it was just like, even though his name is
Masters
He-Man.
of the Universe.
No,
it's just called Masters of the Universe.
It's just
yes,
called Masters of the Universe. Yeah.
Like, do they call him He-Man or do they call him Prince Adam the whole time?
He's not Prince Adam at all, right? He's just He-Man, right?
No, he's Adam at one point. I think.
I think he's just Adam.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think
Transformation
only
with the
Skeletor
sword.
says,
They never do the
never does that.
transformation.
At the end, he only says, "I have the power." He doesn't say, "By the power of Grayskull." He doesn't say any of that stuff.
Yeah, they do show Grayskull like at the Castle Grayskull at the beginning,
It's a matte painting.
and like Skeletor is there. Yeah,
Yeah.
but and
I like
Franklin
the good
Angela
matte
as Skeletor is a real
Phenomenal.
a real highlight of that movie.
Yeah, the prosthetics might be a little rough depending on how they light them, but I do like his performance.
Yeah.
Mike, you didn't think
Depends on the scene.
Being able to act in that makeup, man.
When it
Adam,
looks good, it
he's
looks
coming
great.
through.
There's a couple times it's maybe I would have not lit it so bright, but it's good. It's impressive. I'm not gonna, it's impressive.
Frank Langella loved making this movie. He talks about it like it's Shakespeare. He says it's one of his favorite roles he's ever done. He would have loved to come back to it. Obviously, that post-cred scene we said before is him knocked into a puddle of goo and jumping out at the end saying, "I'll be back."
Yeah.
Never happens.
Damn.
Spoiler alert, he was not.
But the bad guys, we get a little better representation of the bad guys. We get Beastman, we get Meg Foster as Evil Lynn, and we get Skeletor.
Yeah. And Evil Lynn looks great, actually. She's probably the best adaptation of like a He-Man character besides Orko.
Yeah.
But
I would say.
Evil Lynn's good. And I like that there's a henchman called Blade, right? They established that his name's Blade. Well, and he's got knives on him. Right?
Like you meet at one point what Skeletor refers to as a curious quartet, which is Blade, Karg, some sort of serpent man. Karg is like he has Farrah Fawcett blonde hair and one hook hand.
He's got a sick blowback. Right. No, but what
Jacob,
I like
how
about
is your name not like Jake Karg?
Jake Karg
Should have been.
No, but Blade, real quick, I have to note, there's a great character moment with Blade when they actually, He-Man surrenders to Skeletor to save the lives of the humans, right? And when they're taking him prisoner and someone needs to grab his sword, who is the one to grab the sword? But Blade. Blade, like, picks it up, like, I got it, guys. My name's Blade.
He gets some great ADR because He-Man says, "My sword."
My sword. Yeah, Blade's the one to take care of the sword. Yeah, he's got it.
Which... Another reason why it's, reminds me of the Conan movie is because you have Dolph Lundgren with his accent doing He-Man, very similar to, Arnold as Conan, right?
Now, Jacob, this was fresh off of a Russian action movie called Red Scorpion. It was a leading role for Dolph Lundgren. If people don't know Dolph Lundgren, one of the most interesting people who ever lived, okay? He's a Swedish, multiple doctorate studier of, like, molecular biology and things like that. He was a bodyguard in a club in like France when he was just spotted, and somebody was like, "My God, you're just like insane looking. You should star in movies." And he was an Olympic athlete. I mean, he's truly just done it all.
But he didn't really speak English too well at first when he was.
He was given 3 shots in this film. He said, "I want to be a star. I want to be the lead." Obviously, he got that body looking great. He's doing some good cycles of steroids to really get lean and cut his He-Man.
Got those obliques
but,
cut.
They said, "We'll give you 3 tries." And he does 3 dubs of his own voice in English. The director, Gary Goddard, says, "Absolutely not. You're terrible." They run out of money. Canon goes bankrupt, and they say, "You've got it. We're using your voice." So it's.
So they originally wanted to overdub him with another actor, right?
Yeah, that's
hopefully Arnold.
Yeah, you get the famous line reads you'll see of Skeletor has taken prisoner the sorceress, and He-Man just comes in, "Let her go." And it sounds like he's asking,
Let her go.
Or, I don't know, are you requesting me, or what do you want here, Skeletor?
Kind of California dude. It's the strangest accent of all time. I said off pod, it's kind of Keanu-esque.
And you know what? Maybe every good iteration of He-Man has camp, and this certainly has that, right? It's weird.
Definitely.
It's tonally all over the place, like any good He-Man thing should be, in my opinion. So
yeah,
I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's a fun watch, and I like the fish out of water element when they go to Earth. It's fun.
I love a good fish out of water. Yeah.
So. And there's interesting things about the Eternians that they just write for this movie. They're vegetarians. At one point, they're like, "This primitive culture still consumes meat? This is disgusting." And Duncan's like, "I don't know, it's pretty good." And he just kind of munches down those ribs. And then, the most progressive thing anyone could ever say, Julie says goodbye to them. He-Man says, "We don't say goodbye. We say good journey." That's beautiful. I think about that all the time.
Yeah. I do, and they have that little gesture. It's like they touch their heart and like kiss the blow kiss or something.
He-Man blows a big kiss.
Yeah, without risk of staying on this too long, it is weird that they send them back to their time, but it's actually to their time to where she can stop her parents from dying.
Yes.
Which is
Billy
years ago.
At the beginning of the movie.
Julie, you can go anywhere in time or space.
Gwildor, that's fine. We'll just go back home. And then she turns as they're traveling and goes, wait, Gwildor, wait! And she wakes up in bed and her parents are alive. How did Gwildor know that she would want that?
Gwildor knows all dog.
Gwildor knew.
Oh, man. Honestly, in the makeup for Gwildor looks great. So.
Mike, what do you think about his
give him a
half
sock
eye?
at the end of the movie?
One of his eyes can't open all the way because of the makeup, so Gwildor's very often pop-eyeing at you.
Well,
and at one point he
attached?
pours the ribs in his mouth. It's never coming out of that makeup, Mike.
Yeah. Maybe he got roughed up by Skeletor's goons.
Maybe. Well, do you remember in the first scene, the bad guys stomp on his rose garden outside of his house?
Oh, yeah,
there's a quick shot of them doing that.
Yeah.
My flowers!
It's very, very... He's probably my favorite thing. I just wish they would have called him Orko.
Ever.
And
How he doesn't pop up in more movies.
Yeah, but then the cop, too, it's the principal from Back to the Future. He just gets kidnapped, and then he's like, I'm just going to stay in Eternia. You know what?
Mike, what an ending to a film to go, I got a girlfriend here. He puts his arm around a 14-year-old girl. You're like, I don't know about this.
Who directed this? Yeah.
He's fucking Jeffrey Epstein's his way into another dimension. It's amazing.
Oh, God.
But it's so bizarre. He's like, he has that big shootout with a shotgun. All right, I'll kick your ass or whatever. And he just starts blowing away. It's like,
right.
Fascinating.
And like we said, Courtney Cox, very early role for her, as well as Tom Paris from Star Trek Voyager, Robert Duncan McNeil in his first and like basically only film role, because I looked at his filmography. He's only basically done TV, like Star Trek, obviously. This is like his only movie that he ever did, was this movie.
He should have been Prince Adam and Dolphin.
I wonder why.
Yeah, it's true.
There is a superpower I want to shout out that you three, my normie co-hosts, have, or I guess any Star Trek fan, where anything you guys consume now, you can go, that guy is a Temerian or a Cardassian, waiter in the background.
The 6 Degrees of Picard.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's true. Like the last time I watched this movie, I did not know, I had not seen Voyager, and now I know who that is. I just thought it was some musician guy who liked synthesizers.
Yeah, and to be fair, some of the fonts used on the packaging of original Masters toys is the same font used for Star Trek The Motion Picture. Just needed to also throw that out there. It's my power.
What a weird connection.
Yeah. But that's, so Motu live action, we've gone from plastic to the page to the small screen to the big screen. Then we get, like Joe said, this kind of kills the momentum here. And there's
the big screen really slows down the speed of He-Man. And they try again. They put him in space. They give him a ponytail. You get He-Man and a whole bunch of new characters in a series I've never seen from the early 90s. It's like the new adventures of He-Man.
No way, Mike.
So like I said, I checked out at least one episode of each of the series. This was, I'm watching it, he goes to space. He's not as bulky. It's really kind of strange. And I look it up. There's a lot of like flashing effects. And I'm like, this looks like anime. And like, sure enough, they had outsourced the animation to Japan and some Korean, South Korean companies. So they basically were like, we don't want to spend any money on this. Send it to Japan, reinvent it, put him in space. We don't care. It really wasn't that successful.
Oh, and it reminds me of Spider-Man Unlimited. Like, that's really how it feels.
Joe, that is such a good
Not Spider-Man 2099, just a different take on him, and he looks different, and none of your friends are here.
Yeah, he's on a different planet. None of the main... That's true. It's the only iteration without, like, a Man-at-Arms or without a Tila, and it suffers because of it.
Well,
it's like, or X-Men Evolution, or whatever that cartoon they made after the 90s cartoon.
Yes.
But there's no Masters of the Universe. It's just He-Man. And, I would argue that He-Man on his own doesn't work. You need the Masters of the Universe.
Oh, I would agree.
You know what it is? It's a principle I'm going to call the Han Solo effect, where it's like, you try to beat Han Solo, you're an original thing, but eventually you're going to be Han Solo. You just give up and somebody goes, should we just make him fucking Han Solo?
Yeah, it was basically that's what they were trying to do too. So it wasn't great, but the next thing they did they finally like waited a little bit. I think they wanted to redesign some toys. There was a company?
Well, so this is the longest gap we go at this point. So big in the mid 80s, late 80s kills it, early 90s nothing's happening.
Puts the nail in the
Flash
coffin.
forward to I think 2002 or 2003. Let's bring it back, baby. Let's make better toys that are more classic and a new show that is really classic. And this slapped. All of it was great. The figures were great. The cartoon was pretty solid. Could not find its audience. Kids did not care about this, and the adult fans were not satiated by what they got before it met its untimely end. And that was for both the action figure line that Mattel had put out and the cartoon. Okay. Great stuff, just didn't last.
Yeah, and for me, I really think this is my favorite iteration of the He-Man Masters of the Universe is this 2002 version of the cartoon. It's really slick, the animation's good, it's a little modernized. Like Beastman looks like a total goober in the original, but like now he looks a little bit more saber-toothy, a little more scary. Like the designs are more modern. It's like the Ninja Turtles.
Really identifiable though,
too.
Like they look exactly how they should look, just better.
Just 100% better, and the tone is there. It's really fun, and so I really like this 2002 version of He-Man, and this is the one where Adam isn't just as bulky as He-Man. Like he's actually thinner, and it's like it kind of puts that idea out there.
Little, twink.
Yeah.
Mike,
and then he becomes
I
He-Man.
remember this premiering on Toonami. It was kind of a big deal. I remember being in my brother's room. We were watching on his little truly cube TV that he had, super small.
Yeah.
Oh, they're doing something with that old show, Masters of the Universe. I remember watching the pilot and the sequel, because it was a 2-parter, maybe a 3-parter.
With Adam's Courage.
Played in one afternoon, because Cartoon Network was we're fucking full barrels trying. This has to be a thing, because it's
the
not
Justice League premiere was happening. They were doing a made-for-TV, G.I. Joe movie. They were really trying to get into the Toonami as a full identity at this point. It wasn't just what it is today, which is, an hour of anime once a week.
No, because cartoons today are adult, Joe. And when we were teenagers, it was are cartoons adult? And there were some where they were we're trying, we're kind of going to make it look like that. And this one, the issue is I was a fucking teenage boy, and I wasn't going to fucking just sit around and just watch Masters of the Universe cartoons. I saw it sparingly. We didn't have TiVo at the time. We didn't have, you just weren't doing tapes or stuff. I just was not catching it or whatever. But what I remember about it is the mythos of we finally got good writers. So let's do an episode where it's like Joe's Buzz-Off is General Buzz-Off of the B-Men. And obviously his real name is Buzz, Dracorius Off. And he's a big, but it just added so much fucking maturity to it. And it was all right, this is kind of a cool take that, again, I can appreciate a lot more now.
Yeah.
Now, I think that was the thing, is it was too early. We weren't old enough to be cool enough to watch it. We were teenage boys.
I would be embarrassed telling you, Joe, if I went to
cartoons.
school and you were you watched Masters of the Universe, the new cartoon the other day? We're supposed to be doing skateboard tricks. I'd be sorry.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. Is it was too early, man. They needed our generation to get a little bit older. That was 2002. Yeah. Now we're in 2021, and it is the golden age of Motu, which is crazy. The 80s are back, baby.
Yeah, it is crazy that right before we get into the Netflix show, the big thing, it's Motu is bigger than ever, and we did just miss that window because 2003, the Ninja Turtles, as I said, were also grittier and darker, a little bit more serious, like the comics.
Man,
totally
I would
passed
catch
me
it
by.
Every once in a while.
Didn't watch it, but in 2012,
but if you watch
I
it
got
now,
nostalgic.
oh boy,
But now it holds up, exactly. So this is a lot like that. Even the way it opens, my last note on it, it's like, "Hi, I'm Prince Adam, and this is Cringer," and then just explosion. Like, fuck this, we're going.
The adult parody of the original, Mike. It's so funny watching an old episode now and then watching that new one.
And then my final note is just like, I just love hearing classic Leonardo's voice from the 80s cartoon, and that's Adam and He-Man. So it's always a treat to hear that voice actor. But 2021.
This is the one that I'll say, before we jump into Netflix. If you like Netflix, if you're excited to watch it based off of what we talk about, this should be the first thing you revisit because
all on YouTube.
You're going to love this.
For free.
100%.
Yeah, I was going to say, this sounds a lot like the new show, and it definitely sounds like something I would be interested in based on the new show. So
if you like the new show, this is the one to go to next. But let's talk about the present of the Masters of the Universe, the 2021 He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Revelations.
Revelation.
Next Hour of Revelations. And Netflix. We have the streaming.
Nice.
By the power of Grayskull.
And we're back. And Joe, you said Masters of the Universe, but don't you mean He Woke and the Masters of the SJW verse?
Oh no!
Can you imagine?
So as
Could you imagine if that was our show?
Oh man!
All right, I'm gonna flex. I'm gonna say it one more time. I'm gonna show off my boys rule, girls drool tattoo
on my bicep. Yeah. How dare these women's be in my He-Man show?
Exist.
Yeah, exist. So we're being flippant about the controversy surrounding the show, right? People, spoilers here if you haven't seen it. We're going to be talking about some of the issues with the show, right? The new He-Man show. Personally, before we get into that, what did you guys think? Because, as I said, didn't have much care for He-Man. After the first episode, I was hooked. By the final episode, I can't wait for the next half of this thing. I am super excited, and I think they made some of the most interesting creative choices they could have, given my knowledge of Motu. But a lot of people don't think so. Jacob, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, pretty similar to you. I thought it was really, really interesting. Again, like the world building of the world is a big draw for me, and I loved what they did with the world, and even showing all these different minor characters, and some of them have like some sort of modern redesigns, or they're given more, backstory and characterization, and I just think the whole world is just really cool. So I'm definitely excited for where they're going with this.
I think they knocked it out of the fucking park. I really enjoyed the first 5 episodes. I can't wait for more. All of my gripes are really small, and basically just, when I boil it down, it's just because I want more.
Got it. Colin, how about you?
Now, I just want you guys to say what brought you to it. Because, again, none of us liked He-Man. I don't know if it was one of us texting each other and saying, you got to check this out. I know to me it was like, they have those bad Transformers shows on Netflix. I don't really expect a lot. Oh, this is that Draft House Studios that does Castlevania.
Right.
House, yeah.
Well, that's my favorite thing Netflix does. Maybe it's Kevin Smith. Kind of another thumbs down for Colin, where it's like, I don't really know about that.
See, for me, Kevin Smith, I would say, king of nerd culture for Gen X, right? Back in the 90s and into the 2000s. You think that's like an easy slam dunk. Kevin Smith, 80s pop culture stuff, like, come on, that's an easy win. Apparently to most of the fan base, no, it is not. So
yeah, I mean, it's tough, man, because this fan base is so split, right? Like, there are positive corners of the Motu pocket. If you go to PowerCon, you're going to see panels about the diversity and representation and how informative Motu was for young girls who made up 40% of the sales of He-Man toys, which is why She-Ra was created in the first place. It's not all of this very vocal minority. I mean, same kind of thing we see in Star Wars and Star Trek. It goes into every bit of nerddom. But for me, like, what drew me to it was the rise of Motu in collecting. Like Super 7's been making figures. Joe? Yeah, so they've been making a push to have more Master of the Universe stuff, and you've seen companies like Super 7. They made a Snake Mountain that's like 3 feet tall. Nice. And it's incredible, right? So, like, for the last couple of years, there's been more and more like high-end He-Man stuff. Mondo makes like 1/4 scale characters. Like, you guys know, Mondo is quality posters, quality vinyls, quality figures. Like, they have a merman that's just like out of this world. So honestly, like, through the toys, I've been getting more and more into the world. I saw the trailer, and Kevin Smith tweeted out the transformation scene months before the show came out, and I was like, all right, I'm in. Like, yeah, it seems like the 2002
awesome.
Show again.
Yeah, the animation, the art style is awesome. And we should also mention that this is coming on the heels of a very successful She-Ra reboot, right? Which lasted like 5 seasons, very, very popular at the time. Different art style. So now we're going back to He-Man. So I guess some of the complaints of this, whole controversy is, and we're going to get into some spoilers, right?
Well, yeah, this will tie in perfect then. What hooked me was its powerhouse, and I said the new adventures of He-Man looked kind of like anime. I want to be clear, anime is not a dirty word. That's just kind of the style. Powerhouse is Netflix anime studio, and I'm like a fan of their work, right? Blood of Zeus, I need to watch still, but Castlevania, obviously great.
And the animation style is very similar to Castlevania with the action.
And the action is really fluid. It's awesome. And so I watched the first episode. It's giving you everything you want in the He-Man. Cheesy one-liners, Beastman, He-Man, throwing stuff. It's everything you ever wanted. And then the twist at the end of the first episode, I was hooked. I'm like, this is the most interesting creative choice you could make, and I want to know where this goes. It's like not knowing anything about He-Man. So now, yes, the spoilers, Jacob. The controversy, where does this kind of, what event predicates kind of this switch that people are complaining about?
Well, so at the end of the first episode, right, there's a big battle between Skeletor and He-Man, and they both die. Skeletor and He-Man die. And the next episode takes place a little bit after. Also, Teela learns, apparently she's the only one in Eternia that didn't know that Prince Adam was He-Man. She feels very betrayed by this.
Yes.
Next episode, she's... She's working as like a mercenary, and she has to go on like a hero's journey, and to get He-Man back from heaven or whatever.
But yeah.
So we go into a time jump here, right? Prince Adam and Skeletor both die a couple years later, and I think like the thematic choices to be like, Magic's dying, Magic's dead. All we care about is technology now.
Yeah,
very so cool. Fucking smart. It was one of those things that, like, when you're a kid, you kind of take for granted that, like, there are villains in He-Man who are just, like, shooting lasers and there's flying machines and stuff. This really turns that taking for granted aspect on its head. And it's like, no, remember, like, this is, like, a whole nother aspect of this, and we're going to focus on that for these first 5 episodes.
So there's, like, I think Triclops is the villain where there's like a cult of technology now where he's like, Skeletor always used magic and that always failed, so we can only rely on technology.
Yeah, it's very
the
Mad
sweet
Max.
Motherboard.
Yeah, it's like Witness Me, the V8. Like, I love this stuff. And what they did with that world building is take everything that was unintentionally mashed together and give it a feeling of intentionality that makes revisiting them, it's so additive. And people are just complaining because they say we were told we were going to get a He-Man show, and instead we're getting, quote, the Teela show.
Well, it's called He-Man, Mike. No, it's not.
But it's not.
Called Masters of the Universe.
There's more than one Masters.
Let me give a little context on some of the complaints. So basically, this show coming out. Before, and I think, here's the thing. Kevin Smith may have led them on a little bit in the pre kind of announcements to the show, saying, "Oh, what, you don't think the show's gonna be about He-Man? He's like the main character. He's He-Man. Obviously, gonna be in it." Of course, he dies in the first episode, but this is the first 5 episodes of a 10 episode run or whatever. It's the first half. So, a lot of fans felt betrayed, I guess, because they felt like, oh, we came to see He-Man, now he's dead. We got to follow Teela. What the hell? She's a girl, man.
Which is hilarious because this is exactly what Kevin Smith had planned. He has now said in interviews like, yeah, I knew there'd be major backlash. Here are all of my counterpoints to the things they're complaining about.
Right.
Which basically boils down to like, hey, if you don't hate women and you ever watched this show before, women have like always existed in this universe, and his friends are always saving him, and that's kind of the thing. But he wanted this first part to be Empire Strikes Back. So think about the original show as if that is A New Hope, and this first 5 episodes is Empire Strikes Back. So obviously there's a bunch of twists and turns and a big cliffhanger ending. So I think he played everyone like a fiddle. I think he knew exactly who would get worked up, and like, what are they gonna do? They're gonna negative review bomb it on Rotten Tomatoes, and then that'll go away eventually. It's doing great critically.
Yeah, a big portion of the fans that are complaining about it, it's these drama YouTube channels that make a million videos about Brie Larson and Marvel and all this shit,
Star
Last
Wars
Jedi.
Stuff. Yeah.
They already decided they weren't going to like it before it came out, and they just made up the reason proactively. Like they're doing it for the drama and for the clicks, because that's one way to get YouTube views, is if you just complain about everything. And it's a shame, because it's like, if these people saw Death of Superman, would they complain, what the fuck, you killed Superman? Well, how's there even a story now? What the hell?
Absolutely. If the internet was as popular now as it was in like 1994 when they killed Superman, forget it. Like, Colin, the internet would have lost its fucking mind over Jason Todd, over Superman dying. Oh, yeah. I swear to God, like, Empire Strikes Back would have negative numbers on Rotten Tomatoes if these people were allowed on the internet.
Solo and Carbonite, what the hell? Like, he
fridged him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
fridged him. Colin,
but again, at the same time, I think you have Kevin Smith kind of playing into it in a funny way to me, where Teela is the main character. He gives her like a new haircut, like an undercut, right, which is kind of shorthand for like strong female character, right? So he's almost like playing into it, but it's
he knew exactly what he was doing.
Now, Jacob, is it true that you can see Teela playing The Last of Us Part 2 in the background in certain scenes?
Yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, and then they complain that she's like too broad-shouldered or too muscular or whatever. It's like, have you seen this show? They're all muscular. That's the fucking point.
They're too much, dog.
They're masters of the universe.
Yeah, she's a warrior, woman at arms at one point. Anyway, so if you're not seeing the show and you're seeing this like, oh, He-Man's woke now or He-Man sucks now, ignore that and watch it for yourself. Because we're all saying it's fucking great and does some really interesting creative stuff. And the thing about, He-Man's not in it, he's in almost every episode. There's a lot of flashbacks of Teela and his adventures, so you get He-Man throughout this whole show.
Which is great. Like, that's all. If you're a He-Man fan, what the fuck else do you want other than like random, 2-minute clips in each episode of the greatest adventures they've ever been on together?
Right. Like, do you just want it to be like, just like the old cartoon, and be like episodic and have like moral lessons of like good and evil?
We literally have 3 of those.
Yeah. And it's like,
we've been praising it a bunch. I do have a complaint though, and like I said, I think this really does boil down to the fact that I just want more. I wish there were more characters. Like, we get Man-at-Arms, who's like one of my favorite Motu characters, gets a great arc, but like, other than that, you have some villains appearing unnamed, some heroes in background shots unnamed, and then Roboto, Teela, Orko, and
Evil Lyn,
and a character who I'm not familiar with at all. I'm assuming it was just created for the show.
Comic books. Lieutenant, what is her name? Andorra? Is that what?
Andorra.
Andra.
I thought it was Andorra.
Is that right? No, I think Andorra is that the planet She-Ra's on? But let me say.
Oh yeah.
If you are one of these, you'd be 50 by now. If you were one of these kids who was watching He-Man and growing up on this stuff, and going like, I love He-Man. He's inspired me my whole life. I like Kevin Smith even. But you don't really need that. But just I want to see this new show. I do understand you going like, wait, the only like male character is Justin Long playing a robot? Like this kind of isn't what I really signed up for. I get that. I kind of get that, okay? But to rebel against the story of the death of He-Man, it's so interesting that you guys brought up Superman, because I was thinking of that thought experiment the entire time I was watching it, where I was like, what if this was a fucking animated DC, show called Man of Steel Revelations, that opens on Superman cracking jokes, and then Lois Lane had to watch him and Lex Luthor explode, and then it was 5 episodes of her dealing with that PTSD. That sounds fucking great to me too.
Right.
The hook is there, you idiots.
Right.
Well, the thing is, it's more of an ensemble piece, and what I like about it is it gives some of these side characters more characterization. Evil Lynn, excuse me,
it's a lot of fleshed out in this, right?
Yeah, I mean, she's a villain, obviously, but then she's working with the heroes for most of this, and she gets like kind of a sympathetic backstory, and she kind of bonds with Orko with their magic and stuff. So it gives more depth.
Yeah,
to
see,
it.
like, my only issue is like, I wish every single episode we got a new character that got that level of a breakdown, which I get is stupid to be like. My big complaint is that they didn't tell me Fisto's tragic background, but like, I think it's so good. I just want more characters to have moments like that.
Right.
I guess it's my biggest complaint.
And as the first half, we're still waiting on the second half when that's going to come out, but it's like like the Justice League movies. It's like it's about Superman, even though he's dead. It shows how important he is to this group, and the absence of He-Man has created a lot of sadness, a lot of depression, hardship, struggle for the people around him. And it takes a lot of work, and they're going to need to grow to live in a world without He-Man, right? And that's what the story opens up, is the opportunity to explore these characters who were fairly one note. And like Joe said, I just want more. I love the Gwildor storyline. I love the Evil Lynn storyline, how magic
Gwildor,
is
not Orko.
Yeah. But, magic is dying, so the sorcerers are, like, feeling the heat, right? It's very interesting. And Teela hates magic, and she's like, I love technology. And then she sees the technology cult, and it's like, maybe I don't love it that much,
I mean, it's literally like, what if magic died? Like this... You can't tell me Masters of the Universe Revelations isn't about 9/11 either. Like, it's
that's amazing, Joe.
An event changes the world.
If you did a Star Wars movie where someone was like, the Force is dead, and you have to see the repercussions through the galaxy, it almost wouldn't have the same impact that Masters of the Universe really makes you go, no, magic is woven into everyone's lives, not just these ridiculous robed fools who, swing pool cues at each other.
Right.
Yeah.
See, for me, I thought, the more mature tone, I really like that, and it feels more lived in the world, like these feel like real people rather than just one-note characters, like you said. And to me, it reminds me a lot of another show that we like a lot, Young Justice, where it's, these comic book characters, but they are living in a world where there's like real consequences for actions and stuff, and it just has a darker, more mature tone.
They're just well-written, story-driven character dramas. But at the same time, a love letter to the toys. I mean, when they go to Eternia, when they get to heaven, the most expensive He-Man playset ever, which was like a gliding Zeppelin, is the crux of the episode that they need to get to. So,
see, I thought I didn't. I don't necessarily agree with your criticism of there's not enough characters, because I felt like there's a ton of side characters in every episode just kind of popping in, making cameos. I was like, who's this guy? Fucking Moss Man,
Who's
all
Scareglow.
Yeah, Scareglow.
Stinkor shows up, yeah.
Stinkor gets his moment in the sun.
Merman.
I mean, you're right. I guess I just want more. I think
we'll get more, and I think it's a good start, and then obviously it ends on a...
I can see Joe's complaint of, and I want to talk about a positive, the voice cast. Let's talk about that. But when you're getting like Triclops is in the background. He's kind of the villain of this, but nobody's even really like addressing him as Triclops. He's not like saying any of his catchphrases.
Nope.
I'm just like, there's a lot of characters that are sort of lurking in the wings of this, but voiced by incredible talent.
Yeah. I mean, Skeletor obviously is the top of mind. It's Mark Hamill. I hear the Joker sometimes, but he knocks it out of the park. I mean, he does crush it. I mean,
yeah. He's a great voice actor.
Always playing a bad
and obviously
guy.
We have SMG, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy herself as Tila. We have some Game of Thrones actors. We have
Evil Lynn is
Evil Lynn.
Cersei, right?
Is what's her name? Cersei, yeah.
And Liam Cunningham, Davos plays Man-at-Arms. Pretty cool.
That's right.
Pretty great.
That's right.
Man-at-Arms is maybe my favorite. I just want more time with him. And at one point, they're like, "You can't come on this adventure. You go hang with the sorceress." And I'm like, "No, let him."
I was so mad when that happened. I was really like, "Wait a minute! I've been dying to see him for like 3 episodes now," and they're just like, "No."
He has his moments,
but then he comes anyway.
He comes in
his like lone samurai
rider
costume with his like he's got like the ponytail and stuff.
Yes, and he's banished.
The
like
grizzled veteran.
It's God.
He lost his honor.
Yeah,
that's one thing. Really one thing I didn't like about it was just the reveal of like, oh, Tila's the only person who didn't know Adam was He-Man, and she's feels so betrayed by this.
That's established in the original series. In my lifelong fandom, obviously that we've established, the sorceress knows it. And sorceress is her mom, and then she knows that Tila finds out and makes her forget it. So it's a choice made by those around her. It's not just Adam.
I just think it's kind of silly that she wouldn't see. I mean, it makes a little more sense in this version where Prince Adam is like a little twink, like you said, Colin. He's not just the same muscular guy.
When they're in heaven and they're like, he's the only one who likes to stay as a twink, and he like blushes. I was like, I know what's going on here.
Yeah. And then of course you have Cringer who turns into Battle Cat. Like, how do you not put those two together? But I guess it's like the Clark Kent Superman.
Battle Cat's a green tiger.
That guy wears glasses and his wife doesn't know he's Superman. Come on.
Yeah.
I'll let that slide.
Yeah, you can let it slide.
Yeah.
I don't
think
like
it's a great
that
start.
He changes Battle Cat like without his permission.
I had a question about that, Joe. In my limited knowledge too, and Mike, maybe this stunned you when you saw the cartoons too, because in the 2002 update, Cringer cannot talk. So when Stephen Root's like, "Oh my God, what's going on here?" I was like, "What the fuck?" And then when he turns him into Battle Cat, does he strip him of his ability to speak? I don't like that at all.
Well, I like Cringer as a character.
Battle Cat, yeah.
Cringer is hilarious to me because in his base form, he's just like a huge scaredy cat. Like that's his character. He cringes, right? But then he becomes Battle Cat, and he's a badass.
It's just like He-Man and Adam,
Yeah.
Adam's not
Two little
completely...
twinks turn into big tops.
That's right.
Yes.
And then Orko obviously gets some characterization as well, and he, it's great.
Top of the voice talent for me. Shout out my favorite podcaster, Griffin Newman, comedian, actor. Check him out on the Tick. I think just what a one of a kind, because it's he's no modulation. He's making his voice that high. It's a great homage to the old cartoon. It's so much more soulful.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, Merman is Kevin Conroy, Batman actor of our youth. It's like, what the fuck more do these incels want who don't like this show?
Merman's
it
got
has
one eye
everything
and
for
shit.
you.
Yeah,
you
that blows my mind.
They want the episode to be. They want the episode to be that 4 minutes of He-Man and Tila fighting Skeletor and Merman. That's what they want. They just want to bang their fucking toys together again.
But it's but you have, this is a Gen X thing. Like, we're millennials, we're a little bit younger, but this is solidly a Gen X pop culture thing. You get the king of Gen X pop culture, Kevin Smith. Like, it's an A+. So I don't know how people don't like it, but and then you have
Well, sorry, one last point I just want to point out. I've heard people say this too. I've heard toy people say this too, okay? Well, we had ours. They made that She-Ra show. It's kind of unfortunate and mean to not give the boys what they deserve next. Now, I will ask my other 3 hosts here. Mm-hmm. Have you ever kept a tally of what gender stars in your favorite media? It's not just an and or a one for one. if you're binary like that, what existence are you living in?
Right, and again, I don't see this as the Tila show. It's an ensemble. Like Tila's like maybe the main character, but it's an ensemble, and it's about the supporting characters that go along with her. Like Evelyn has more of a character arc than I think almost anyone in this show, and it's like, what more can you really ask for? But it's the same, like I said, it's the same people that complained that Star Wars is a girl and a black man now. So it's like, who cares what they think,
Even as far back as, like we said, the original series, there were women directing it. They saw the success of the toys with girls who liked buying them, playing with them. They made a show. One of the original comic book writers was like, I could just draw whatever I wanted, show that there's a lot of diversity and inclusion in the mass. This is like in the 80s. Like, it's always been part of it, right?
Right.
So to bring it up now, it's so frustrating.
Complaining about Star Trek being woke now. It's like, Star Trek was always
dudes were wearing skirts in TNG.
Yeah. Like the Masters of the Universe are also like the X-Men, right? Like everybody has their own powers. They all do their own thing. Mm-hmm. Is anyone's like favorite Master of the Universe He-Man on this podcast? Is anyone like, I need more He-Man because He-Man's my favorite character. We should ask that,
Joe. Who is your favorite Master of the Universe?
Man-at-Arms is my favorite character.
Man-at-Arms, Colin, you like Adam.
Man-at-Arms is just my great, working man hero.
Man-at-Arms is really dope. I like Adam. The toy for Stinkor is so cool that they would actually put, I kid you not, like a smelly bead inside of it. His design just makes me laugh so much. His name is Stinkor, Mike.
Right. Jacob, who's your favorite Master of the Universe?
I'm with you, Colin. I like Orko a lot. I think he's a really interesting guy. And even Roboto in this has like that moment of like, oh, I feel fear. I'm human.
Hey, it's me, Justin Long. Do you remember when I was an actor and now I'm dying?
Well, you're like, okay, another movie
I think He-Man also has the Superman problem where he's like so powerful that a lot of times in Superman stories you have to get Superman out of the picture for a while because he would just solve the problem in a second. That's the He-Man problem too. So you have to get him out of the way, let the other side characters do their thing for a while, and then bring him back in the finale. Like, it makes total sense to me.
Yeah, and I'm Joe, Team Man-at-Arms. So cool, especially in this. Like, I'm like, this guy, the grizzled vet, he loses his honor. He can't deal with it. Yeah, cannons. Yeah. It's very cool.
Well, and just like, his whole thing is like, he's the MacGyver of the universe who like, I'll make anything work. And also I lead the army. Like, the fearless general. I'm here for it.
I made a ton.
Yeah, very cool. So yeah, He-Man I don't think is any of our favorite character. Maybe that other generation it is because he's the one who has the power and made them feel like as a kid that they can accomplish anything. That's kind of the meta of
But I would also say that Tila is not my favorite character either. And I think one of my biggest criticisms of the show maybe is that I'm not super into her as a character, but I understand, why she kind of leads the first half of these episodes. And I think Sarah Michelle Gellar, perfect choice to play her. Obviously Buffy, and she's basically a vampire slayer or a monster slayer in this. So
very Castlevania vibes to the Town of the Week, Quest of the Week.
Yeah,
and like full spoilers alert here. They go on the big journey. They do what they need to do. He's about to say the magic words. We're finally going to get the He-Man moment, and something happens. Darth Vader cuts off his hand. He says the magic words. We're introduced to Skelegod, who's going to be the next big bad, while He-Man is, still sort of sidelined here. So I think the complaints might continue. Dead? He's not dead. No,
really.
They're not going to kill. You can't have in the same episode his whole thing be like, if you die, you can't go back to heaven, and him being like, well, I'm gonna leave anyway, and then immediately kill him. Like, they're not. I think they'll play with that drama for the next couple episodes.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna.
He'll finally Superman will return and then kill Steppenwolf.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's they're gonna get their moment. You just gotta let the story happen first.
Another thing I wanted to mention that's kind of funny is though, Sarah Michelle Gellar obviously played Buffy. A big storyline in Buffy was she died and went to heaven, and her friends like forcibly brought her back to life, and she has like a whole season where she's depressed because she used to be in heaven. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's funny. But yeah, this is again like one of the most creative choices you could have made. I think they mentioned in the wrap-up show, like, this is the first time Skeletor has ever won. I remember thinking it was weird that the power sword split into two. I'm like, that's a stupid addition. It's one sword. But then I look back, doing my research, it's always kind of been two swords. One Skeletor had, one He-Man had. If you combine them, you can unlock Grayskull, and that's always been the battle, and Skeletor's never done it until 2021. And I'm like, this is just the most interesting thing you could have done. I can't wait.
And it's just cool to see them.
38 years.
Yeah, to see them use the swords as swords and be able to, like, show some, like, violence and action, actually, you know. It's great. It's great.
Yeah, just lighten up, guys.
Right.
I'm saying guys because I'm thinking this criticism skews heavily male. Right.
Oh yeah, but again, you know, it's just the drama YouTubers that are the loudest voices. Fun fact though, I was looking at the voice cast. You mentioned Kevin Conroy. Did you know Jason Mewes was the voice of Stinkor?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
So there you go. Kevin Smith connection there.
Jacob, who is it? It's the lead singer of Black Flag. Joe's other favorite
Henry Rollins.
voice actor of all
Yeah.
time.
Henry Rollins.
Henry Rollins is Triclops.
It is a punk rock show.
Yeah. It really is. Like it's a punk rock band. They did whatever they wanted. I mean, that's why like Super 7, whose like motto is literally like, hey, we were punk rock kids and no one made the toys we wanted, so we made them ourselves. Like, of course they took big inspiration from Motu, and that's why it's stuck around and it didn't die after Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's a great universe. Season 1 of this thing is awesome. Check it out if you haven't. Don't let the review bombs get you down. Joe, I feel like, you know, you said they've done a good job of setting this up. You know, I agree. Any thoughts, anyone, where we might go? Like, I don't, like, agreeing with Joe. I don't think Adam's dead. You know, they're not going to do that. He'll come back.
I just want to know when it's going to come, Mike, because like you said, they've got this weird after show. They're not updating that weekly. It's not like this was a weekly drop of a Netflix show. They dropped it in one chunk. I think it's going to be 15 episodes. I think it's going to be 5 and 5 pods, but there seems to be no indication of what the release schedule will be.
Like, have they even recorded dialogue for the, like, I don't know if they've even started. So
that's a good question.
That's information that, I mean, I've done a lot of research now that I'm a
I do like what they
fan,
did,
but nothing.
You know, they just basically gave it to Kevin Smith. They're like, listen, just make it so that, you know, we can make toys out of this and you can basically do whatever you want. They kind of gave him free reign. So I appreciate that they, you know, didn't try to constrict him, and, you know, he's just telling the story that he wants to tell. So I'm very excited to see where it goes.
Oh, yes.
And they have done it. You know, like if you're so inspired by the show and you want toys that are from the show, there is the Masterverse line from Mattel, which is inspired by this show. So you can get He-Man, Skeletor, Skelegod, and Tila. They're all out. So
cool.
Go check them out.
Give me that undercut.
Sorceress will free you.
Skeletor has imprisoned me within this energy field, which only he can dissolve. You are in danger here. You must leave.
We won't leave without you, Sorceress. Gwildor, can you or Key open a door in the force field?
Of course.
Then do it now.
It'll take time.
Well, let's get started then, Gwildor.
Gwildor, over here.
Oh. I have to take a reading and compute the gravitonic tones.
He's taking your power.
I can withstand him until moonrise. Until the great eye opens on the universe.
They're coming!
Gwildor, get back there. Keep working. Come on. Come on! Everything comes to he who waits.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, check out the show. I can't recommend enough. Didn't care about He-Man at all, and I've just been hooked on it. I think they did a really great job of refreshing this universe. It seems so cobbled together and dorky. That's what I always imagine as P-Man. Remember my comments earlier. Now I think it's great, and Motu for life. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Motu for life.
Motu for life.
That's
right.
Motu for life.
We're just kind of rolling. This is our final thoughts. I mean, truly.
Yeah,
if I can just give my last anecdote about the He-Man universe. I'm wearing my Canon shirt. If I could make any movie that was a biopic, okay, of any point in time, I would want to make when Golan and Globus, the two producers who made He-Man, were trying to make a movie called Jean-Claude Van Damme's Cyborg. Now, that's a Canon film. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's the last ever released Canon movie. I said He-Man made them go bankrupt, but it was truly greenlighting the sequel, Masters of the Universe 2, and that James Cameron Spider-Man movie, where they said, what are we doing? We have to get out of the movie business. So they axed those two films in development and used the costumes in the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie Cyborg. So at one point he fights the Marvel villain Venom, and at one point he fights Skeletor, and it has nothing to do with the post-apocalyptic robot universe that he lives in. And I
That's amazing.
highly recommend everyone check that out.
Colin, if they actually did make that James Cameron Spider-Man movie, wouldn't that probably have saved their studio?
Probably. Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to be Doc Ock, Jacob.
And Leo as Spider-Man? Like, that would have killed.
He was also going to be like a pervert who like spied on Mary Jane while she got changed.
There was a lot
like
of James Cameron weird sexuality in it, Joe.
Okay, well, interesting stuff. Canon, unfortunately, rip. 1987, that reminds me, two notes. One is, after watching this, I think a time machine popped up and I had a retroactive crush on Tila from this movie since the time I was a kid. She's great. But
Meg Foster as Evil Lynn, Mike, I have thought about since I was watching this tape in the backseat of my parents' car.
But there's a scene when He-Man is leading them to safety in an alley, and Dolph Lundgren opens like the wooden gate, and it breaks off the hinges and just awkwardly leans on his back, and he's like, "Come through." And he's like, has a no sell that he just broke the door and it's falling on him, and it's just like the funniest thing.
Doesn't matter. It was shot in Whittier. We could drive an hour north and see where the entire movie was shot. Downtown Whittier.
I need to go buy a keyboard, a new synthesizer, a Japanese one.
At Charlie's?
Charlie's, that's right. Go get those ribs. But Motu, last thing for me. All the iterations of it are fun except for the New Adventures. Don't ever look at that. And as Joe said, if you like the Netflix one and you want more like that, go to the 2002. It's a good way to go.
I'm definitely going to check that out. Normies, check out Revelations on Netflix. Check out the Dolph Lundgren movie. Both recommends from us. And Masters of the Universe. We have the power.
Didn't think we'd be here, but here we are. All right. As always, signing off, Colin, please lead the way.
That's right.
Host at arms.
Call Evil Lynn.
I'm going to call her right now. You got her number? I guess this will be Mike at arms. Yes.
There we go.
Just Joe, man. Just Joe, man.
And this is Battle Cobb. I have the power.